What did we learn from the Premier Sports Cup and pre-season matches? Are we really celebrating a testimonial? Plus, we look back over the month of July, pick out the best player, the unsung hero, and any surprises. All that and more. Coming up in today's Hearts Standard, I am Craig Cairns. I am joined by Joel Sked. How are you doing, Joel?
Very well. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, very well. We will get into all this in a bit more detail in a minute, but just before we do, in a few words, Joe, how has the month of July been for you?
Hectic, enjoyable, exciting at times, but no, it's been overall. It's been very, very productive. Is probably the best way to put it.
When I was writing descriptions and the like for this, I kept coming to the word encouraging. There's a lot of encouragement, but all the positives have to be caveated. But as I say, we will get into that. We'll just say first of all, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in, I'm out of practice with this. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. I got to the point where I could do that off the top of my head without even reading it. And then it must be about 2 weeks or something since I've read that. And out of practice. Sorry, S1 Jobs. Right. As we have sort of teased, we are going to look back. We'll start off by just having a sort of overview of the month of July, taking into account the pre-season friendlies and the Premier Sports Cup matches. And one of the questions you put to kick us off, Joel, was what encouraged you the most? So let's start there. What encouraged you the most about the matches that we've witnessed over the last month?
I wrote some notes to be more prepared and closed my notes down. So just so in terms of what encouraged was the way that Hearts improved from game to game, which was like a natural progression, and asked about it on the video on Saturday, like kind of the difference between this season and last season, and it's 12 months on from that Fleetwood game, and there's much more kind of encouragement going into the season after the game at the weekend, rather than maybe a bit of trepidation after losing to what was a League Two side managed by Charlie Adam and losing convincingly. But it's just the way that it's just been steady progress. The Dunfermline game still looked a wee bit rusty at times, but one ended up winning comfortably. Then the Hamilton game was a lot more controlled, kind of fell away in this wee bit in the second half, but it picked up again with the subs. Stirling was just an incredibly positive first half performance, and it was one at half time. Again, second half, it was just kind of lost the way a bit. And then the Barton was just another really controlled performance. But in a way, all four of those were, I wouldn't say fault, they were good tests at that time of the season, but they didn't paint like a real true picture of what Hearts are going to face this season. So that's why adding the Sunderland game, and that really just kind of boosted the encouragement and the feel-good factor, because there was just a different side to the team, the intensity which the team played at, the way they just everyone seemed switched on. And it was at that, because I know Derek McInnes said, I think it was after the Dumbarton game, he said it's hard to tell sometimes when if your team's ready or not, because he's had great pre-seasons when the team have went on and had a poor start, and then vice versa where they've had a tough pre-seasons and went on and had a really good start. But it just felt like watching Hearts on Saturday was just like, okay, that team seemed ready. And I just think with going in, I was speaking to a mate about this morning, that there's a real opportunity to build momentum, and I think momentum will be built very quickly at the start of the season, especially if Hearts beat Aberdeen on Monday. And I think it'll just add into that feel-good factor and excitement that's around the club at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be the real acid test once the Scottish Premiership games get underway, and there's a really big test starting for the first game of the season. Just kind of add to what you've said. One of the things I've really been encouraged with is being sort of twofold, and it kind of leads on to the concern as well, which is going to be our next category, is the way that Derek McInnes, the depth of the squad, and the way that Derek McInnes has managed it. It's helped that he's got the results. I mean, it all kind of feeds into one another. When you are 3-0 up at halftime or whatever, you can afford to make more substitutions in the second half, that kind of thing. Or you don't have, you can play about the way you did in the Dumbarton game a wee bit more to get players minutes when you know you're pretty much through. And you know what I mean? And he's managed to rotate a lot. He's managed to get all the key players enough minutes and preparation, barring a few players who've got like knocks and injuries or maybe haven't got registered in time and things like that. Most of the key players have got a sufficient game time, looking in good shape going into the season. And he's managed to, going by what he said the other day, he's managed to keep everybody happy so far. I'm sure there's one or two who haven't played at all or much who probably aren't that happy, even if they aren't showing it. But he has managed to, so far, manage the squad very, very well, I think. And that kind of leads on to a concern, is that the only concern I have at the moment, there may be more once we see more football and we see football against better opposition, but right now the concern I have is the size of the squad. They're continuing to add to it, and there doesn't seem to be any signs of movement other than a few loan players here and there, and there's lots of players that are clearly not going to get game time under Derek McInnes unless there's some sort of injury crisis or something like that. So I probably the sooner the better they trim the squad.
Yeah, I think that's been, it's unusual because in a transfer window, fans usually wanting more and more signings. So it's unusual. It's flipped, and our fans, you see it on, reading news or people messaging us on social media or guys messaging into these videos or the comments, and it's like, oh, we really need to start shifting players on. It's never seen like a sport base like, oh, we've actually got too many options, got too many players. So yeah, that'll, and to use a phrase or word that McInnes has throughout pre-season, it's just going to be natural. I just don't think there's going to be just a host of players leaving at once. I think it'll be like a steady drip of players moving on once options are going to be, once there's a realization that they're not in the squad, or options become available in teams, whether it's in Scotland or down south or abroad, get a better idea what their squad will look like. Sticking on kind of concerns, and I'll go back to, I'll jump back after to ask you about the kind of the tactical side, because you wrote something about it. But I
was going to bring it back, but you're all good.
Cool. Well, because the concerns. So there was two. One from a purely selfish point of view for me and you is predicting the starting 11 each week is going to be so difficult. Just judging by what we've seen so far in terms of the tactical flexibility and versatility and the number of options, the squad, it's going to be so difficult to pick and choose because McInnes is going to swap depending on the opposition. And then in terms of concerns, and it's something I touched on with the encouragement aspect, and I suppose I was kind of reaching a bit for concerns because at the moment I've not really got any concerns, but the way that the team kind of maybe started second half slowly, or kind of lost that fluency and the tempo. But again, that can be down to it's just the opening few games, and especially when you look at real control against Hamilton and Stirling as well, where the game was over and then they had to make a tactical and personnel switch with Borchgrevink going off. So that was the only thing that kind of caught my eye. Those concerns were a wee bit less so after the Sunderland game and the way that the team approached after the half.
I was going to bring it back around with tactical flexibility, so I'm glad you mentioned that. That's one of the other things that's been encouraging. I think that, predicting the 11 is going to be difficult from week to week, but I think similar as was with Neil Critchley, I think there's a core there that you think he's going to use. He's got like a match day squad plus 2 or 3 more that he's probably, that's going to be his trusted players that he goes to. There might be other players that kind of work their way into that. And I think that for all the changing of personnel from game to game and the changes of shape, I think we can see 2 shapes emerging, the 4-4-2 and the 3-5-2. But have to say, there's a lot of flexibility even within those shapes, and they can be lined up in different ways. You saw Braga playing on the left of a 4-4-2 and coming in as a number 10 and one of the fullbacks given width. You see inverted wingers playing on the sides of the 5 and the 3-5-2. I don't know. There's just he can do lots. Sometimes he likes to have a striker out on the side. Sometimes he likes to move things around a lot like that. And like you say, because he likes to adapt to what the opposition are doing, without us having in-depth knowledge of what the opposition are doing from week to week. Even with that, we'd probably struggle. But yeah, we've got no chance with the predicted 11.
I was just going to say, McInnes has joked about it as well. I can't remember what, I think it was after the Dumbarton game. It was after one of the games, and he joked about it, saying, I keep predicting what they're going to do, because I think
it was after Sterling. It was after Hamilton and Sterling and got wrong.
Yeah, flipped it in terms of what they were expecting. So yeah, that was it. So in terms of, on top of that, is the 2 things that's really, really positive, and again, something that I mentioned on Saturday, is the squad depth. There's a better balance to it. There's obviously too much depth, but it feels like there's better options coming off the bench, and it feels like Hearts are going to be better at being able to maybe change the game, or it makes it easier for McInnes to change the game with the options that are coming in or have come in, and that way, I don't think Hearts are going to be as predictable as we were last season, where I can kind of predict how we will approach games, but with the fluency, with the be able to play wingers or wing backs, go back 3, go back 4, change it from off the bench, move players around, that there's going to be there's a lot more answers. So when McInnes turns around at the bench, there's going to be a lot more answers this season.
That's why I think there might be impact subs as well. People specifically kept for impact subs. That's why I think the likes of, I know that you've not been the most positive towards Cabangu during the preseason and stuff, but that's where I think there's still possibly a role for him. If he's not going to be a prolific starter or goal scorer for Hearts, I really think that when defenders are on their last legs and he can come in and run in behind, as long as he can stay on side.
That's because there's I would come in on this, but one of my answers in the next section we're going to do is kind of related to that. Do you want me to bring in some comments just now before we move on?
Yes, because I was going to ask you that, because we're going to go through categories about best player and all that kind of thing. So I've
just started some, so I'll just do these randomly, and we can both chip in. Liam asked, "Hi guys, have an update on the injuries and what you think the starting 11 be injuries wise." So again, last time I kind of spoke was Saturday. Benny is hopeful for Aberdeen game. Borchgrevink is hopeful to be played in the behind closed doors game. McCart still a wee bit away. Don't think I'm missing anyone else out there. Craig Gordon's a number of weeks away. In terms of what you think the starting 11 will be, we'll tackle that in a video closer to maybe later on in the week when we look at the squad and we look ahead to the Aberdeen game. Graham from the Gorgie Boys podcast, what has been noticeable for me compared to last season, how is our work without the ball? We win it back far quicker and with an aggression and intensity. I was about to say identity, but that is going to be Hearts' identity. Robbie Hanratty, hi Robbie. Us Don fans are pretty wary about this opening game at Tynecastle. Good. What's the Sidney Devine says, what's opinion on where Thomas Bent Magnuson fits in? Devlin and McEntee were brilliant together on Saturday. Yeah, he reading, so Tom's on the case. He's written something for when hopefully he signs. I read Barry's interview in the news today with the chairman from Valor, which was really interesting, to give you a kind of background on the player. So it does seem like he is just adding to the depth of more presence. I think kind of Peter Haring comparisons, that like winning the ball and giving Hearts real solidity in the middle of the park. It's been a question, and it's probably a question that we might tackle later on the week. But I know some fans want maybe a more forward-thinking midfield player, but Craig, it seems like McInnes has talked about how I think the centre midfield is going to be like a really solid base, and creativity is going to come from different areas rather than the centre of the pitch. And
we saw a perfect example. We saw his words in action against Switzerland as well. Sunderland. but after the Stirling game, he was talking about McInnes maybe not making as much of an impression on the game as he would have liked. His first game in central midfield, that was. And he spoke about how it's a game where Hearts had a lot of the ball, and he was maybe wondering what to do with himself. How do I impose myself on this game? And he was saying that there's going to be many opponents in the Scottish Premiership where Hearts will be expected to win the ball a lot more, and that's where he will come into his own. And I think we got glimpses of that against Sunderland. I think that was maybe the headline, one of the headline sort of performances from the Sunderland game. And it's really good to see. And I think that's what McInnes is talking about when he's talking about getting more of a presence and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Horrible to play against at Tynecastle.
Size.
And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And if he's wanting to add more of that in there, then yeah, fair enough. Because the Hearts did lack that last season. There's no doubt. To go back to what the Dons fan was saying, assuming he was sincere, we should probably mention that Hearts fans are confident. There is a confidence going through Hearts at the moment, but I think most fans are keeping their powder dry at the moment until the real action starts, because there's lots of tests to come. And I think I don't think Hearts fans are getting overexcited by beating Stirling 4-0 and beating Sunderland 3-0 and all that kind of stuff. Hearts fans are well aware that the English teams are a few weeks behind in their preparation and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's the way Hearts are going about things and the way Derek McInnes is conducting himself. Hearts fans are buying into and getting encouraged by all of that stuff. And if you watch Hearts from week to week so far, there's lots of encouraging signs there, and that's why people are getting excited. It's not the numbers; it's just the general vibes and the performance that they're seeing.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And you mentioned McInnes and Sunderland, the Sunderland game. Graham asked, even lads, what's your thoughts on Sunderland fans crying about us being a bit aggressive? Don't think any challenges were bad, just strong. Worst challenge was a number 50 in the second half. So yeah, the Hearts treated this as if it was a competitive game, and it was great to see. And I think Sunderland were a wee bit shocked by the physicality of Hearts, but good. That's hopefully woke them up, and it was. I think Hearts approached it in the perfect mentality.
I'm not entirely sure of the etiquette of friendlies. I'm not sure whether Hearts have overstepped the line there or anything. I wasn't at the game, I should say. I've kind of just watched bits back. But again, it's McInnes' words in action, isn't it? I said it a minute ago. He spoke about it was one of the first things he said, making Tynecastle a horrible place to come to again. Sunderland didn't enjoy it, so there you go. McInnes.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and I think it was an important kind of statement to show, because that was the biggest Hearts crowd of the season so far. Whereas like Dumbarton and Dunfermline, there were smaller crowds, where it was an opportunity to show what was a big crowd that this is what Hearts are trying to be this season.
And it was a pre-season friendly. Everybody trying to downplay it by using the word testimonial. It was a testimonial for about a minute, and then it was a pre-season friendly. So I like how people are trying to use semantics to downplay it. Anyway, we're going to.
Sorry, I've got a few more. McInnes was Cal says McInnes was outstanding on Saturday. Surely midfield is his position moving forward. There's some I'm going to leave until the end because we might cover them. Right, that's what I'll leave the rest until we'll go through ours, and then I'll bring in the rest at the end. I'll split up.
Brilliant. We're going to go through a few different categories just from what we've seen over July so far, and we're going to start with best player. At first, I was finding this a wee bit difficult. I've got a few honourable mentions, but then I've got a winner. Did you have any trouble with this one?
So yeah, I want to change the names of the awards, because this is something that we're going to do each month. Like looking at the end of each month, we're going to look back at the month and kind of review it by doing these awards. And I didn't have my creative brain on this morning, so like kind of best player. I was wanting to do something a bit more less boring, but yeah, best player. And like you, I kind of found it difficult. I was like, oh, I've set myself up for a fall here, but I think I decided on one.
Okay, right. My honourable mentions are Cammy Devlin, Craig Halkett, and Harry Milne.
Yep.
And I have chosen Claudio Braga.
Same.
Right. I thought we would maybe be unanimous on that one. I think he's just pipped it, hasn't he? I mean, I think there's lots of candidates. There's lots of players who... And you have to take into account the amount of minutes some players have had and that kind of thing and the different opportunities players have had. But after a slightly muted start, he's really come to the fore over the last 4 matches since his debut, including the Sunderland game.
Yeah, because there's a wee bit... There's wee question marks like how good a finisher is and will he be that goal scorer, but he's scored some really proper strikers goals. He's shown his finishing touch, he's shown his kind of hunger for goals, but it's his kind of attitude, and I think Hearts fans have really fed off that, and the intensity in which he plays with. I think he's very well aware, and having spoken to him a few times, really nice guy, and he's really wise to the fact that Scottish football is going to be physical, and we saw him mix it on Saturday. And McEntee afterwards, he talked about how both Braga and Kiaridis, they can put themselves about and they can mix it, and that's really good. And he's just a player that plays with so much personality, and I think a player that Hearts fans can relate to. So yeah, I wasn't skeptical, but wasn't sure about how you'd fit in, or whether again would he make the big step up. But the early suggestions are really, really positive. And B. Dougal asked, because he said, what signing are you most excited about, having now seen the players in action, and has that changed since before the League Cup games? And this is Braga for me. He's really, really impressed me with just his all-round game, and we talked about it after the Dumbarton game. The ability to get the ball in and turn and run at players. And now when he plays up front with Shankland, the Hearts midfield, Hearts wingers have got 2 really good targets to play to.
Yeah, no, and 2 intelligent players as well. I just think he's another player that had been... It has, to answer that question that's just been asked, it has changed. I think I was more excited about Kiaridis at first, but the more I've seen of Braga, yeah, he looks like he's going to be an absolute star. Again, it's very early. We've seen players all across Scottish football do well in the League Cup group stage and then not take that into the league. So there's still a few steps to go yet. But just to add to everything that we've said about him, we've met him, and he's just such a nice guy as well. People are buying into his personality and stuff, and that's him. That's just him. Yeah. He's just a bright, bubbly person.
He's the type of like speaking to him is like, if you go away, kind of turn around, like, he's really nice. He's the type of person you want to do well. You just want it to go well for him, because he just seems to really, I think he really get Hearts or understand that he's at a big club and he wants to do as much for the club as possible.
Very appreciative of where he is, definitely. Right, we will now move on to the surprise of the month. This can be good or bad. I'm going to kick things off with a positive one, Joe, and I'm going to go with, even though I don't think we've seen him the last 2 games, Alan Forrest, because he not only wasn't quite a surprise start, and we had both predicted he was going to start the first game, maybe a surprise that he was the only player to start the first 3 games, and to perform well in all 3 of them as well. And he's shown that he will be a useful... it feels sort of bad to say about the guy constantly, but he will be a squad player going about this season. I don't think McInnes has gone out the attention to get all this strength out wide to continue to play Alan Forrest every week, unfortunately. But I think he's proven that he will be a useful player for Derek McInnes, especially with his versatility.
Yeah, 100%. I certainly consider him for one of these, not the best player award, but this one of the next awards. So yeah, I agree with that. I think he gets a hard deal at sometimes by fans. He is not a world beater. He is not I don't think he is, and again, I don't want to come as this across as criticism. I don't think he is a Hearts first team starter every week, but I just think he is a useful squad player to have in terms of being able to do jobs, being able to fit into different systems, and he can be productive. We've seen him; he was unlucky not to score at the weekend, and he has produced some moments already this season. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. My biggest surprise, and it goes back to, we won't stay on it for a while because we've already talked about it, was just how much of the squad was used. It was the fact that when you asked McInnes before we went to Spain, and you're just like, oh, will you be using the League Cup as a kind of extension of the pre-season? And he was like, no, everything's been treated really seriously. Yes, Hearts did treat it seriously, but you kind of expected, once the competitive action got going, that some guys wouldn't feature at all and he would kind of be on the outside. But it's the fact that, like, Khartoum coming off the bench at the weekend, Caban getting loads of minutes, Khartoum getting good minutes, Forrester, who had only plays 45 minutes in pre-season, then he starts, or he plays the last couple of games as well. So it's the fact that, well, it's a big squad, it's the big surprise is that he's, going back to what you said, he's managed it really well and kept everyone part of it. And that's the big thing, is that there's going to be changes during games, there's going to be changes from games, there's 5 subs as well, so it gives more options, and it does feel like the squad will be utilised. And I think the vast majority of them, when the squad settles down, I think everyone will feel involved, and I think that's really important for the kind of dynamics of the dressing room.
Who have you gone with for yourself for this category?
Oh no, the biggest surprise was the squad. I didn't choose a person. I chose choose a thing. Choose a thing.
Jesus Christ. Pay attention, Craig. Okay, we'll move on to Unsung Hero then. Mine's is slightly controversial, although I think the logic's sound. Who have you gone for this?
So he's probably been more sung about recently, but I've went for Cammy Devlin, and I again can't remember the guy's name. It's back up. It was a comment that flashed up. It's like, he asked about who from last season has kind of stepped up, and I think a lot of the guys have, and I kind of expected that, because I didn't think Hearts, the players were, like, individually weren't as bad as what last season produced, and I just thought everyone would get a lift with McInnes and you'd see a big improvement individually and collectively. But Devlin has been really, really impressive, and he has not really changed too much of his game. But I do think with what McInnes wants in the midfield, it suits, where you just need to be, as long as he's a wee bit more authoritative or more aggressive with his passing, i.e. passing quicker and forward more often, he'll have a space in that midfield, or he'll be space within that squad because of what he gives you out of possession.
Is there a stat measuring how often you're the first person to congratulate the goal scorer?
No, but I'm sure he will be in the 100th percentile.
He would be leading worldwide, I think. I don't know how he manages it. He's always first on the scene to whoever scores. I meant to ask him about it when we were speaking to him recently, but I actually forgot. Right, mine's is slightly, like yours, I feel less bad about saying mine now. I've gone for Lauren Shankland. Now, I know there was a lot of fanfare about Lauren Shankland coming back, and I know that Lauren Shankland's made a really good start since he's returned, scoring 3 goals, but I just feel that he's been, especially the first couple of games, I think he was a wee bit quieter. Not only that, he's getting overshadowed by the new players and the excitement about the new players and all that, but he's just, even when he's quite quiet, when he does get involved, what he does is brilliant. Like one touch to send somebody through and all this kind of stuff. So I think the reason I've gone with Unsung, and him as Unsung, is because I feel like he's just quietly going about his business. There's not, like, as I said, there's attention elsewhere at Hearts at the moment. People are getting excited about Braga and Kizaridis and Carriota and all these kind of guys. And he, while not being absolutely prolific yet and not taking any matches by the scruff of the neck yet, he's quietly affected the games he's played, and that was a cracking finish against Sunderland as well.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm kind of glad you brought this up, because I think this is a great shout, and it's something that makes me more excited about the season. Is that this is Lauren? He scored a few goals, but it's even when games he's not scoring, there's not a focus. There's not the focus on him because other guys are stepping up, and these Scots.
In contrast to last season.
Yeah, in contrast to last season, now that there's not as much pressure and responsibility on him. I just think it just should free him up from taking away a lot of that focus, taking away a lot of that pressure and responsibility, and he can just concentrate on his game. And I absolutely 100% agree with that.
Okay. Who or what disappointed? I think we're at half an hour already, and we did speak about tactics for quite a bit earlier, so we're going to drop the last one and we'll finish on who or what disappointed. I don't know why we're going to finish with a disappointment. That's my dad. I have gone for Borchgrevink's fitness. This is nothing to do with the player, not a slight on the player at all. It's just, I feel like looking at the Hearts team, basically somebody asked us earlier what the team's going to be against Aberdeen. I already tweeted ahead of the Sunderland game when the lineup graphic went out, switch Clark for Gordon and Borchgrevink for Forrester if he's fit. And I think that's the team that starts against Aberdeen. And that's with the caveat that I think that Benny's probably going to come a bit too soon for Benny. Even if Benny is fully fit, maybe because if he's missed the last, he probably want to go, I don't know, he maybe want like Devlin's intensity and McEntee's size. So, but if you look at that team, Forrester, I quite like Forrester. I probably like Forrester more than most Hearts fans. He's a wee bit probably behind a couple of other players in the squad, or most other players in the squad. And I just think that every other position you look at, and there's quality there, or there's depth there. There's a couple of options there, and right back, a perennially problem position for Hearts, and it just seems like, again, just because I know some of it's been precaution with Borchgrevink, but I just feel like how complete that lineup would look going into the new season if Borchgrevink was fully fit.
Sorry, Jesus.
I get a point. End podcast.
Sorry about that. This is exactly what I had for biggest disappointment, was the injury to Borchgrevink, just because the most disappointing is we've not really seen him get a run of games now, and what the team would look like kind of more complete with him. So yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said there.
Excellent.
I was just going to bring in some more comments, because I feel bad, because the attack side, I feel bad for not, because there's the set piece angle I was going to potentially.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I was potentially do we put Ross Grant as the best player of this of July? But I'll bring in some comments just now to finish on a high. Bendy Wateras says, if Milne is an indicator of having a replacement ready for someone leaving, then it's very promising to continue progress of the team. Yeah, 100%. I think he's been the fact that he stepped in and we've not really yearning for James Penrice says a hell of a lot.
I wrote a couple of weeks ago that I wrote an article about Harry Milne, and I wrote a line that the sale of James Penrice no doubt weakens the Hearts starting 11, and now I'm not too sure if that's true. I don't know whether I've done Harry Milne a disservice. If he carries on the way he's going, then I have done Harry Milne a disservice with that line.
He's probably got it stapled or sellotaped to his dressing room wall. Yeah. Martin Nisbets asks, where is Kabangu fitting in? Well, when he gets signed, we've got Kabori, sorry. Where is Kabori fitting in? When he officially signs, got a Tom Irving article which kind of looked at that in depth and where Tom thinks he suits best. Sidney Devine says, I think we'll start the season playing with a back three of Kent, Halkett, Finlay, but that means shuffling to a 4 in order to get Kiridis and right wing on. It's quite a change in structure every game. I wonder, with Steinvender playing, I think Steinvender's probably more suited to that, playing in that, because I think he allows you to go to a back 4 in game without having to make loads of changes. And as we saw at the weekend against Sunderland, that was quite natural. Mario one says, biggest positive, each game we've got better and better. Biggest concern, a lack of Craig Levine. Okay. David Taylor says, realistically, who do you think might not make? Okay, well, this I'll save this for another video because we'll look at squad depth analysis there. Ryan says, feels like Naismith was praised for his willingness to change to the opposition at the start as well. He was also praised for how he spoke in interviews until results changed. Fair point, but I do think McInnes will change, but the identity of the team will remain, if that makes sense. Like the kind of principles of play and everything. Couple of guys saying, Liam says the player I'm most excited to see more of is Kiarides. Matty K is also Kiarides. This is a very exciting prospect as well as Bragg. In fact, off the summer GTA signings, they all look good.
That was going to be my tactical take. That was going to be the final section that we dropped. I was going to mention I quite liked when he was instructing Kiarides to stay wide and take crossfield passes while Milne came inside and then made runs. And sometimes he was coming inside, sometimes he was going down the line. I'm interested to see more of that kind of stuff from the Hearts wingers or wing backs.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on this season. Matty also asks, completely off topic, but what's the deal with McInnes in terms of attire? He appears to be a smart dresser at home and a tracksuit gaffer away. This is one we'll definitely be keeping an eye on over the season. Hopefully maybe do like a 10,000 word long read on Derek McInnes and his dress sense. Robert Bond says, recruitment. It seems Jamestown has turned out to be the game changer. We're promised all the signs proving this. And we mentioned set pieces. How many have we scored from set pieces now, gents? Is that a 7, including the Sunderland friendly? As directly, indirectly, what a job Ross Grant is doing. So yeah,
I think there's been 1 in each game, and then there's been at least 2 from second phases.
Yeah, so there was 5. Yeah, so there was 3 in the Stirling game. So I think there are 7. Yeah, and I can't remember. Obviously, I don't know about the East Kilbride game because we didn't see that, and I don't think they scored a set piece, but they looked dangerous from set pieces in Spain as well, which was is encouraging. Yeah, there's we'll end it there. There's loads of comments. Sorry I didn't get around to them all, but we'll be back later on in the week and we'll be looking ahead to the Aberdeen game. We'll be looking at the squad as a whole once 2 or 3 things happen this week.
Yes, thanks very much for engaging, everybody. We're getting to the point where we need to hire somebody to monitor the comments for us as we go. We do appreciate it. There's much more on heartstandard.co.uk if you would like to read some of what we are talking about. There's plenty more videos up on this channel. Please subscribe if you can. We'll be back at some point later in the week. But until then, we'll speak to you all soon.